everybody on YouTube, I'm Owen H. Welcome to another episode of What's It Worth, and I am dead excited because I finally got to see the one movie everybody's been talking about and wanted to see for so long, and that movie is Nosferatu. This chilling gothic horror tale follows a haunted young woman with a startling secret whose disturbing behavior is triggered by a link with an evil force known as Orlok, a centuries-old vampire infatuated with her who travels the seas, leaving death in his wake, feeding on the living while Europe becomes engulfed by a deadly plague. I've seen so many versions of Dracula. I'm still a huge fan of the original and the first Hammer Films version with Christopher Lee. But everything else afterwards was just crap. They keep retelling the same story, but each version gets crappier and crappier to the point where I just gave up on Dracula. I gave up on vampire movies. And I'll tell you, with Nosferatu, this film is by far the best adaptation of Dracula I have seen in a long time. And this is coming from somebody who's not even a huge fan of vampire movies. I'm more into werewolves, but this movie, wow. I mean, people were not bullshitting about this movie, and I could see why everyone would not stop talking about it. Nosferatu is directed by Robert Eggers, whose first movie I did see was The Witch, which I wasn't crazy about that movie. I liked the trailer better than the film, but Nosferatu is by far his best he's done so far. So what this is this is basically his own version of the 1924 German adaptation of Dracula, which, if you're not familiar with the history of Nosferatu, this film is well known because the filmmakers over in Germany adapted Dracula without Bram Stoker's family's permission, and when they found out about it, they sued the filmmaker, he went bankrupt, and they demanded all copies of Nosferatu to be completely destroyed. But, of course, there's always one copy that does survive. The character of Orlok, the vampire, in the original Nosferatu has inspired so many movies like Salem's Lot, The Shadow of the Vampire, and even The Last Voyage of the Demeter. But with this version of Orlok, they made him different. What it is what Robert Eggers did was he basically combined Dracula and Nosferatu story, which is actually very smart because we're sick and tired of the same thing over and over and over again. This one was just a really interesting blend. And the best part about this film is they didn't make Dracula this overly attractive, two-dimensional sex object that most women just want to jump on. They made him exactly the way he should be presented. Just basically this creature that puts on the cloak of a man to hide its true nature, which is exactly what Orlok is in this film. And the movie's biggest selling point was Bill Skarsgård's portrayal as Count Orlok. And I'll tell you, this guy deserves an Oscar because he did such a fantastic job with this character. It was like when he completely disappeared underneath all of that makeup. Not only that, but his voice. I mean, he doesn't sound like Bill Skarsgård. He doesn't even look like him. There was no resemblance. Maybe the eyes a little bit. I mean, Pennywise was one role where he earned his name and fame, but Orlok is by far his number one best role. Not only was Bill Skarsgård really good, but so was Lily Rose Depp. Yes, Johnny Depp's kid playing the lead protagonist, who is this young woman who's haunted by what it turns out to be a psychic gift where she can actually connect herself with the supernatural world. And she goes through these really intense, epilepsies and these demonic possession moments. That's some like real exorcist shit. And they are so freaky and so realistic. This girl must have like researched people who've had epilepsies, or she must have known some to like really pull it off, because holy shit, they were so intense and so convincing and so realistic. This girl, I mean, this is going to fit nicely in her portfolio. And of course, there's Nicholas Hoult, who played Beast in the X-Men prequels and is known as Lex Luthor in the upcoming Superman. He plays as the Jonathan Harker character, and it was like, this guy scares so easily. But the thing is he does that part so well. Like, you could feel the terror that's coming out of him when Orlok is just messing with him when they're getting acquainted, and he just thinks like this whole thing is a nightmare, but it's not, because he's awake during this whole thing. Aaron Taylor Johnson, who we know as Kraven the Hunter, and he's going to be back in the upcoming 28 years later. Can't wait to see. He plays as kind of like this snarky shipyard owner who they never elaborated, but he has a grudge against Depp's character. They never quite explain why. You just get the impression, like, you notice he never likes to be touched by her. Probably has something to do with her gift. And when she confronts him, like, why do you hate me? He has to put on this stature like he needs to be shown respect. I don't know, it was like, I kind of wish this was something that was elaborated a little further. And of course, his wife, played by Emma Corrin, who we all know as Cassandra Nova from Deadpool and Wolverine. Great actress, by the way. She plays basically the Lucy character that when Orlok bites her, she ends up infected, and it's just this downward spiral for her until she dies at the end. No, she does not turn into a vampire, which that's the formula they changed in this movie, is when Orlok bites people, they do not come back as vampires, but they're infected with the plague, the Black Plague that he brought overseas with him and unleashes in Europe, starting with Germany. And of course, lastly, Willem Dafoe is this Van Helsing character. I think his name's like Dr. Franz. He did such an amazing job. The Swiss accent was an excellent touch. He played his part excellently. I mean, I don't think there was one moment of his performance that bored me at all. I mean, he was so good. And there's tons of other familiar faces, like Nicholas Holt's boss is from Ridley Scott's Robin Hood. The doctor who checked up on Lily Rose Depp's character and turns to Willem Dafoe for help is the father from The Witch. The cinematography in the film was really, really, really good. The lighting, the atmosphere, like the mood, everything about this film, even the production value was so good. As a matter of fact, I'm really tempted to watch this movie in black and white and see how it looks. I bet it looks freaky. And the part where when Nicholas Holt's character is being like he ends up being teleported from the table to the fireplace by Orlok, and then the statue turns its head. I was like, oh my god. Oh, that is such an awesome, creepy touch that Robert Eggers put in that movie. So I gotta thank him for that. This film may not be for everybody because they speak in like these fancy, long, complicated terminologies that it's like you have to know those kind of words to understand the dialogue and know what's going on. Which, that kind of talk was the reason why as a kid I never liked Pirates of the Caribbean. I stopped watching it until I became an adult, then I watched it again and I'm like, okay, so I understand what they're saying and what's going on. And the reason he does it is because it's like he's showing you this is the time frame it takes place in, and that's how people talked back then. As much as this is a really good movie, there's some spots that I'm like, about. And one of them is there's this moment where Lily Rose Depp and Nicholas Hoult get into some kind of a dispute, and she's having like a little exorcist moment, and then all of a sudden she snaps out of it, and she crawls over, and she pisses Nicholas Hoult off by saying, "He pleases me in ways you can't." And then they get into a moment of angry sex, and I just went, what the fuck? I don't know. I just watched that part and went, so it's like every time I watch the movie, I just skip that part. Now, apart from the fancy talk, the one thing that was kind of a downer is the fact that Orlok, you have to put him in subtitles, because there were some spots where, because of his thick accent, I had a hard time understanding his dialogue. Even though he's talking really slow, it was still like I couldn't understand him, so you might have to put him in subtitles to kind of get what he's saying. Another thing that's very minor, some people don't mind it, but I kind of mind it, is I wanted to see more of Orlok, because I think he's only in the movie for about 20 minutes, give or take. And I was like, really? Out of an over 2 hour long movie, he's only in the film that long. And I went, ugh. One more thing that I wasn't crazy about with Nosferatu would be the ending. It was like, I get it, it makes sense, but it was so goddamn depressing. Okay, they're free from the plague, the vampire's dead, but the leading girl? Are you shitting me? And people are like, oh, it's such a beautiful ending. No, it's fucking depressing. Now with the horror factors of the film, it doesn't have too many visual shocks, which that's a good thing. That's what I was afraid of. It's got its fucked up moments. It does have like some disturbing moments. The gore factor, not too bad. Not like jump scary, even though it's got some startling moments. The movie's mostly just really creepy and very unsettling. So where do I rank Nosferatu? I'm definitely going to give this an almost full price rating, because this is the best vampire movie I have seen in a long time. And I can imagine owning this movie somewhere down the road. I probably won't watch it all the time, but yeah, this is definitely one I would recommend people to see. Okay, so I'm done reviewing Nosferatu. I definitely recommend seeing it. And I'm going to review the next vampire movie I rented out, The Last Voyage of the Demeter. So please leave a comment, please subscribe. I'm Owen H. Have a nice day.